And welcome back in. This segment of our show brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Since 1976, these folks have provided the best combination of inventory, pricing, and customer service of any boat dealer between Nashville and Georgia. Visit Steve and Joe and the whole team down there and tell them we sent you. There is no better place to buy a boat than Madisonville Marine. If you don't believe me on the selection, check out madmarine.com before you head down to Highway 411 North in Madisonville. You are going to be very, very impressed. Madisonville Marine. Okay, same idea as the last segment. We're going to be talking about the offense here. And if we go to the, there we go. You got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line for those of you who've never followed a football team before. Gentlemen, my question, 1 to 5. Let's start with where you feel the most confidence. What area of this football team, this offense, you feel best about in terms of depth, in terms of talent, in terms of coaching? Where are you? What's one? Where do you feel best about an offense?
Doesn't it have to be the line if you have everybody healthy?
Theory.
In theory.
Well, haven't changed things changed from a few years ago. I would say offensive line. I think Trey Smith's a great player. I'm assuming Cade Mays gets eligible.
Yeah, that's still a question.
Right.
But I think there are 8 or 9 players on that offensive line that have started at some point in their career. I like what you got with these 2 young tackles and Wright Morris. 2 guards could be as good as anybody in the country in Mays and Smith. The center's a 6-year guy. I would put the offensive line number 1. Well, a few years ago, I couldn't have said that.
Nope.
We'll put it last. Yeah. Without question. Most talent, deepest, good coaching, experience now has to be 1.
And I vote we take tight end off the list.
Well, I think a lot of people, I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but I think there's one where most fans would put the 5, but I think tight end might have passed that quarterback spot, personally.
I do
because
too.
just without Pope,
Yeah,
I mean, he was your lead run blocker for most of the season last year. I think tight end is your biggest concern on that side of the ball. Now, you don't throw to him a lot in Jim Chaney's offense, but you're going to need some blockers there.
They use multiple tight ends a lot.
So
So
I would go tight end over quarterback
I would
in
too.
terms of concern.
I would too.
Everybody agree on that?
Yes.
All right. Tight end is now the number 5, and quarterback is 4. Do we agree that quarterback is your next biggest concern?
Yes, just because of and a lot of that too is because of just the sheer importance of the position. At least you have a veteran guy there. But I mean, it's which Garantano is going to be there?
Right.
Is it going to be the good Garantano or the bad Garantano?
It changes from quarter to quarter.
Yeah, and then plus, there's some obviously talent behind him, and how well is that developed, or who gets on the field as your number 2 guy?
But that talent was really impacted by the development based on not having spring practice. So like the Harrison Baileys of the world and even the Brian Mowers and Trout. So I would say quarterback. And Garantano, there was the good Garantano and the bad Garantano, and we saw a lot of both last year. You can't have that inconsistency if you want to start taking that next step.
Yeah, and ironically, I probably feel better about your coaching there, and I'm still putting Chaney kind of leaning toward quarterbacks there, but I would feel better about coaching there than I do at some of these other spots at the moment. But I just haven't seen enough out of Garantano to feel confident that that's a position that's going to take a step forward. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And what Chuck said about the importance of the position, I think that's why we put it here, because it is affected by our concern at wide receiver, right? You would probably actually feel better about quarterback if you had Juwan Jennings and Marquez Callaway and Donwood Anderson, but you don't have that. So you worry about the receivers a little more, which makes you worry about the quarterback position a little more. So they both have to pick each other up, quarterback and receiver.
Do you put receiver as the 3rd?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You like Josh Palmer, they have depth and talent and athleticism, so potential is there for sure, but you lose a lot with Jennings and Callaway being gone.
Well,
You do.
Here's a scary, talking about receivers. In terms of receiving yardage this year, Josh Palmer is back, he was first. The second most returning receiving yards from last year, Eric Gray with 115 yards. That's your second leading receiver coming back. Ramel Keaton with 104 yards would be the third.
Most of that's in a bowl game.
So you had 2 guys with
2 catches against
200
Mississippi
yards.
State.
So
Mississippi State
that's
in the
it.
bowl game.
It's incredibly unproven at wide receiver.
But I tell you
Johnson
what,
had a decent year 2 years ago, and he redshirted.
Yeah.
But still, from last year to this year, there's not a lot.
But talk
returning.
about some talented, new, young receivers.
Yeah.
It's almost like someday it's going to be wide receiver you again. you know, if that group emerges and develops like they could.
You've got your billows out. You're blowing the fire there. That leaves us with running back.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't feel very confident. For that to be a number 2, you just don't have a lot of depth there. You got Gray, you got Chandler, and then you got a lot of question marks.
And one player's
Kind of
not,
freshman emerge,
no,
yeah.
Yeah.
one player's no longer on the team. So, yeah, I mean, but still, what you have there is pretty good.
Yeah, I just know that how many times has Tennessee made it through a season needing only 2 running backs?
Or
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah, depth's a concern. You don't
Right,
have big
anybody in the
backs
SEC.
yet that are proven. So, and
And-
Gray and Chandler, you're probably going to ask them to do more in the passing game, right? Because of
Yeah.
what we just talked
And you
about.
may not play the full schedule, you may not play at all. But remember, you're going against SEC teams. You're not going to have those 3 or 4 non-conference opponents. So that depth is even more important than it is in a regular season.
That's a good point. You
Thank
don't
you,
get
John.
3 basically preseason games, exhibition games this year. Okay. Very good. When we come back, it seems that fans weren't the only ones who were upset by the SEC scheduling decisions of a week ago. Coaches let the league have it on a teleconference call. We'll discuss that next. Come on back on the Sports Source.